Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Wealth Guardians radio program. We help folks retire the job, but not the paycheck. I'm your host, Doug Ray, and I appreciate you spending some of your Saturday morning with us. Bryce Payne's here in the studio with us. What's going on, buddy?
How you doing, Doug? I'm doing all right myself.
I'm doing well, and we're breaking in a brand new producer this morning.
How long was it? JB is no longer with us, folks, if you've been in the show before. And Doug, how long was JB on the show with you?
Oh, my gosh, probably 5 or more years. I can't even remember. It's been that long.
So we're starting a full new chapter now with Laura Songster as our producer. Welcome, Laura.
Hello.
And if you heard that name before, Laura is the morning host on our sister station, WMAG 99.5.
Very good. Laura, welcome. And, you know, Laura, many years ago in a different lifetime, I was a teacher. And one of the first things that a teacher would do at the start of a new class is try to assess who the helpers were in the classroom and who the troublemakers were, who you had to keep an eye on. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to raise my hand politely and tell you I'm the mature, responsible, helpful one, and this guy here is the one you never want to turn your back on. So just getting that up front right now. But welcome, Laura.
You know, Bryce, isn't your annual review tomorrow?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about that.
All right, let's kick this show off, man.
All right, very good.
Laura, thanks for being here, and we really appreciate it and look forward to working with you for the next years to come.
5 years. You got 5 years under your belt. Go.
All right, so for you guys that are new to us, this is the Wealth Guardians radio show. I am the founder of Ray Financial Group, and we specialize in retirement planning. And that's our focus. That's our passion. We love what we do, and we've helped retire hundreds of families here in the Triad and also down in Charlotte. We've got offices there as well as here in the Clemens area.
Yep, and you know, a lot of people don't know that, Doug, what we do is we help turn their retirement savings accounts into a steady flow of income once they aren't drawing a paycheck, and that's where we come in to help. We create those personalized written retirement income plans so that our clients can live the retirement lifestyle that they've earned, that they've dreamt of, that they've worked for, that they've saved for. And the key thing that I want to make sure everybody knows right off the bat whenever they meet with us, you know this, Doug, is that we practice as fiduciaries. And folks, anytime you sit down with an advisor out there, they're either going to be working on the suitability standard or the fiduciary standard. And please make sure that whoever you work with at least works on the fiduciary standard. That's what we do. And in short, that means that we are obligated to look after your best interests, not ours.
Yeah, and as usual, before we get started, I want to always salute and say thank you to our military, our veterans, and our first responders out there. We appreciate your sacrifices and everything you do for us.
Absolutely, and I don't want to leave the families out as well, Doug. You know, those are the backbone of our servicemen and women, and they've got it just as hard as the ones overseas. So thank you to the families out there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. This show is Retirement Realities, and Doug, you and I know this, but the retirement landscape out there has changed significantly in the last generation or so, and the playbook that people are retiring with today is vastly different than the playbook that their parents had. And when I was looking at the script that we were creating, it reminded me of an article you'd written a number of years ago on Fox Business. I think you called it Not Your Father's Retirement.
Yeah, I did. And, you know, I saw a lot of those changes coming a few years back, and I wrote that article that was published on Fox Business. And folks can read that article if you want to on our website on the homepage at thewealthguardians.com. You click on the button below the Fox Business logo. It's about midways down that homepage, and there you are. So let's get back to the topic, retirement today. It's different than a generation ago. There's rules that have changed. There's laws regarding contribution guidelines. The big picture is necessary to periodically monitor and adjust your retirement planning. You have to make changes that are based on lifetime adjustments and changes. You know, the old saying, life happens.
It does.
Yeah.
While you're not looking.
Exactly. So the object is to protect and preserve that nest egg you spent most of your life building up.
Absolutely.
Tax efficiency is a way of providing a predictable retirement income. And the planning process, you have to make critical decisions about insurance, investments, tax planning, Social Security, how to draw that income. A wrong decision can trickle down and have a lasting effect on your entire retirement plan. also you got to make sure you're using strategies that are appropriate to the circumstances you live in.
Doug, one of the things that we hear sometimes, a lot of times when folks meet with us is they'll talk about some tip or idea or concept that their brother or their coworker or their neighbor used, and they think that's a great idea. It worked for them. It's going to work for me. And, that's just not the case.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, people see some article on the internet and they're not going to realize the details behind the scenes, so it may not work at all in their situation. It's important. You got to realize that today's circumstances and individual situations are very specialized, and everything requires a custom approach to retirement planning.
No question about it. And so that's going to take us, Doug, to our first retirement reality. And the responsibility of having a successful retirement plan falls right on you. You can't depend on your employer anymore. Those times have changed. But when it falls on you, what does that mean to you, Doug? Should listeners just make their own plan?
Well, what we're trying to say here is that, most retirees in the past, they had a company pension,
right.
They had Social Security, and there wasn't really a lot of thought about planning for retirement. One day you were working, the next day you weren't. You had that pension coming in. And they depended upon their employer and the government to start those benefits when they retired. Now, there's very few companies that have any kind of a pension or a defined benefit plan, and if they do, they aren't fully funded or they're being cut back on. So
yeah, they're more of a. We're happy when we see that now. We don't expect it as much as we used to, for sure.
Well, right. Look at the municipal plans, especially. Look at Detroit's situation.
Right.
A lot of our city employees, first responders, teachers, who we saluted earlier in the show, are facing poorly managed or underfunded pension plans that are in trouble.
And they had counted on those.
Exactly. And it's too late for folks already retired to go back and save if those plans fail. Instead, corporate America moved to the 401k and the 403b plan. But these are places to save versus the company putting the savings in for you.
Right.
The actual saving amount's up to you, the individual worker. Maybe the company officers might offer a small match to your savings, but the employee has to figure out how much and in what options within that 401k they've got to invest in. As far as not depending on the government and Social Security, you just can't depend on it. Now let's talk a little bit about the changes in Social Security, because they're coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the good news is if you're 55 and older, you're probably going to get grandfathered into the current terms and conditions of Social Security. But if you're under that, Bryce, that's you, buddy.
Yep.
So you're probably going to see a change, and it could be significant. The Social Security office cannot advise anyone on strategies of how to file and increase their benefits.
They're not going to help you out.
They're not, and you've got to turn to somebody who knows what they're doing in that arena.
Yeah, well, that reminds me, Doug. You've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing it for 10, and at some point, I think now I've heard all the stories I need to tell, all the horror stories out there. But it was just last year that we had Gary and Donna come in, and they had been given some incorrect information or not full information on how to file for Social Security. And we had that unfortunate situation where we had to break the news to them, where they had lost out on tens of thousands of dollars for over 4 years because they had not filed properly with Social Security. And that breaks my heart to have to tell people that. And I don't want to have to break anybody else's heart again. I only want to be able to give people good news when they come in and see us. And folks, that's why we want to make sure that you know exactly how you're filing for Social Security the right way. Doug and I do several Social Security workshops a year. We're having the first one coming up for 2019, March 12th and 14th at 6:30 p.m. Doug and I are both National Social Security Association certified. However, for this set of seminars, we actually have Hamilton Morales, who is nationally known. Doug, tell us about Hamilton.
Well, we've had Hamilton over the last 2 or 3 years, probably at least once a year, and he has been so well received. I jokingly refer to him as my walking, talking encyclopedia of Social Security, because I've never been able to stump this guy on any Social Security question at all.
We are experts on it, but we refer to him as the expert. So, folks, if you want to come and take a listen to what we have to say, what Hamilton has to say about how to file for Social Security, you can register online at www.thewealthguardians.com. Just go to our events tab, or you can give us a call at 336-391-3409. Again, this is March 12th and 14th at 6:30 p.m., and we'd be happy to see you there, happy to work with you. There's no cost or obligation, but you do need to register. And you folks, we're coming up against a break here. You're listening to the Wealth Guardians radio show here on WPTI 94.5 FM, the Triad's News Talk and Sports Station. We appreciate you listening. We're up against a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation about realities in retirement.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or advertisers of 94.5 WPTI or of iHeartMedia.
Doug, before the break, we were talking about realities in retirement, and our second retirement reality is adjusting to medical and healthcare expenses. Talk to us about that one.
Yeah, that's a big expense. A lot of studies have shown that a married couple is estimated to pay something in the neighborhood of $270,000 over the next 20 years for non-Medicare covered expenses.
That's incredible.
It's a lot. It doesn't even take into the consideration long-term care.
Right.
The misunderstanding is that Medicare is going to cover all expenses, including long-term care. That's just not right. It's not accurate. Medicare pays 80% of covered expenses and no long-term care. It's going to cover, we'll cover that topic in just a minute, but the Medicare, 20% of Medicare isn't paid for. So, if you look at the cost of medicine now, 20% can be a lot. So what you have to do to cover that 20% is you got to buy a supplemental policy. And we're fortunate in our office. We have a great partner in the med supp arena, Bonnie Williams, and she works out of our Charlotte office, and she has really helped a lot of our clients close that gap that Medicare doesn't pay for. And the other thing about Medicare is this: if you're a high income earner, the Medicare B and the D is means tested. So if you earn a decent amount of money, whether it's through, retirement funds or whatever, you're going to pay more for B and D. It's just, you're just going to have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Doug, you mentioned long-term care in that last bit there. And so that brings us to our next retirement reality is the high probability of the need for long-term care. That's something used to be a luxury, but not anymore.
Yeah. And again, most people don't realize that Medicare doesn't even pay for long-term care at all, period. It's going to pay for a few weeks of rehab if you break your hip or you have a stroke. But if you have a long illness, maybe dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that, it's not going to pay for it. The spin-down rules for Medicaid, now that's what a lot of people depend on, have changed dramatically over the years. They've got a 5-year look back now, and it's difficult to qualify for Medicaid. So realistically, studies show that the boomer population, there is a pretty good chance that a married couple, there's a 90% chance that at least one of the pair is going to need some kind of long-term care in the future. Another commonly cited statistic is that 70% of those over the age of 65 is going to need some kind of long-term care. And again, folks, the longer you live, you got to agree with me, the frailer you're going to get, right? So, the odds go up that you're going to need it. Now, here's the definition of long-term care. It's an event that is financially, emotionally, and physically devastating for the spouse and or family members of the person who's become frail. And you want to talk about a couple of pushbacks we hear quite often on this long-term care, because we try to bring this topic up to everybody.
We get them. We get the pushback.
Yeah. And folks say, hey, my spouse is going to take care of me, and we joke about it. So, we tell people, all right, lay your husband down and see if you can pick his butt up and take him to the toilet. You probably can't do that now. Well, are you going to do it when you're 80? No, it's not going to happen. And people often say, well, these things are expensive, and if I never use it, then I've lost that money forever. This is true on the old-fashioned long-term care, but now there's newer types of long-term care. It's called asset-based long-term care. And you're going to use this one way or the other. Either you're going to use it for home health or long-term care, or you're going to take advantage of the cash value buildup. Or thankfully, hopefully, if you go through life and you never use it, then eventually a beneficiary is going to get a tax-free little death benefit from it. So there's a lot of ways to cover these long-term care expenses.
It can be a win-win either way.
It can be, and
not a loss of funds.
According to Genworth in the Carolinas, this is updated information from 2018. Full-time in-home health care is going to cost between $42,000 and $45,000 a year. Assisted living is $45,000, and full care, skilled nursing home can be $80,000 to $90,000 a year. And folks, let me tell you something. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, clearly they could pay out of pocket for this care, but they both have bought asset-based long-term care. And Warren Buffett's a big value guy, and he says this. He says, why should I pay $1 in the future for something I can buy for 30 cents today? And it makes sense to me.
Exactly right. All right.
Yeah. So long-term care episodes can significantly derail a retirement plan if you don't fund it and think about it right away. Again, new policies are much better than they used to be, so at least investigate it. If you're interested, if you hear this show this morning and it piques an interest, give us a call. 336-391-3409. I mean, it just takes a cup of coffee and maybe a 20-minute conversation to see if it's right for you.
All right. Well, the next retirement reality is the cost to live in retirement. Now, a lot of folks think costs will go down because they aren't working, but that really has nothing to do with it, Doug.
No, even if you're not working, you might be doing things like traveling or hobbies that have costs. I mean, we've got a guy who we retired a couple years ago, and he makes these beautiful baskets and sells them on eBay. Well, there's a cost associated to that hobby that he's now turned into some part-time work. So, nobody wants to decrease their lifestyle, one that they worked hard for. And we work with our clients to get detailed numbers on expenses and costs, and that's part of the whole process. We encourage them to do a trial run before they retire. In other words, what we want them to do is create a budget and live off of that budget for, 6 months or a year. Make sure it works for them.
Exactly. All right, Doug, so let's talk about the next one. Where does inflation come into play in this? Is that a retirement reality that people have to consider?
Yeah, good point, and it's overlooked a lot.
It is.
The perception is that inflation hasn't been a factor for a while, but, the price of stamps just went up 10%. And, as a business owner, that's an impact. We do a lot of mailing, and everything is going up. And we always, in our retirement plans, account for inflation. In fact, we build in, our software builds in automatically at least a 3% inflation factor.
Yep, and it's key. I would say that's when people come to us and they've already created their own financial plan, that's one of the things that they may have failed to consider is inflation, and that's a reality that we've got to put into that plan. All right, Doug, well, our next reality in retirement is one simple word, longevity. Talk to us about that.
Well, people are living longer. It really is funny to me when we meet with people and they say, well, my dad passed away at 70, my grandfather passed away at 55, I don't expect to make it much past 75. Well, the fact of the matter is they're not thinking about that. Today we take better care of ourselves than our folks and our grandparents did. Clearly, the medical profession, drugs, procedures are much more advanced. Our folks probably never got an annual checkup where we are today, so there's preventative care. So the fact is, we're definitely living longer, and you guys got to expect to be in retirement for 20 or 30 years even. I love to tell the story about my wife's grandfather. He was a postal inspector, and he was in retirement longer than he worked. Literally, he retired after a 30-year career and was in retirement for over 40 years. Pop-up lived to 104. He was driving at 102. And his pension, he was one of the lucky ones. He had one of those pensions. By the time he passed away, his pension, his government pension, was probably 4 or 5 times as much as his active duty pay when he retired. So, folks, you got to get over the fact that you're going to be around a long time, and you got to plan for that. You know, Bryce, when we do a retirement plan for people, we literally want to see these things run out to age 100.
That's our success line.
Yeah.
100. If it only make it to 97 or whatnot, we're going to try to tweak the numbers and see what we can do to make that number go to 100.
And stretching those Social Security benefits is a big part of making that plan last into age 100 plus. And folks, again, remind you, we've got a big Social Security workshop coming up on March the 12th and the 14th. At 6:30 p.m. right in our Clemens, the Broyhill office and executive center. So register for that. If you've always wanted to come to a Social Security workshop, this is the one for you because we got Hamilton Morales, our walking, talking, living, breathing expert on Social Security. He'll be there. So call us at 336-391-3409. And now, thanks to our technology, you can go online at thewealthguardians.com and register for that event.
Our events tab. Go to our events tab. Okay. Well, Doug, let's talk about the next one here while we've still got a few minutes left. I'm guessing that we want to talk about taxes next.
Yeah, taxes. Right now we're living in the sweet spot of taxes. We've had a gift from the Trump administration, taxes. I tell people, every workshop we give, every seminar we do, I ask the question, do you think taxes will be higher in the future than they are now? And nobody thinks they're going to be lower than now, and I absolutely believe that. All you got to do is look at the math, folks. It's nothing but math. $22 trillion in debt, unfunded liabilities on Medicare and Social Security are in the hundreds of trillions. Taxes are going to be higher in the future than they are today. I can guarantee you that. So let's talk about tax-efficient strategies. Let's plan now while we've got the next few years based on this new tax code. We've got lower tax rate and wider margins. Let's take advantage of that and start creating tax-free income for the future. Roth conversions is what I'm talking about. I'm a huge believer in doing Roth conversions. Yes, I know you're going to pay taxes on it now, but think of it this way. Taxes are on sale today compared to where they're going to be in the future. So again, we got to take advantage of that. I mean, if let's say, you had your eye on a fishing pole, a really nice fishing pole, and all of a sudden at Bass Pro Shops, they put a 50%, sale on the thing. You'd probably run over there and buy that fishing pole, wouldn't you? Well, absolutely. So think of taxes as the same way now. All right, so folks, again, just let's plan. Let's be logical about this. Plan for higher taxes in the future. We got some great ideas on how to limit your taxation and on your retirement income in the future. So call us at 336-391-3409. Wow, Bryce, Laura, it looks like we're about out of time today.
Time flies fast on these Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
Folks, we are running out of time here, but if any of what we said today here piques your interest and sounds relevant to you and your situation, please do reach out to us, 336-391-3409, and set up a no-cost, no-obligation second opinion review of whatever financial plan or whatever your situation currently is. We'll give you our thoughts on it. Like I say, no cost, no obligation. And we'd be happy to meet with you and see if we can help you improve your situation or just give you a sense of what your retirement situation looks like. Doug, we will see you on Monday. Laura, thank you for manning the helm here today. We look forward to working with you for the rest of the week. Folks, everybody, thank you. Take care. Have a good weekend.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or advertisers of 94.5 WPTI or of iHeartMedia.